Evening, everyone, to the Littleton Conservation Commission meeting of November 12th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order. The agenda tonight, we've got a handful of administrative items and then 3 different hearings, RDA, and 2 enforcement orders. Amy, you want to start us out with the administrative items?
Sure. Do you want to go with the meetings first? There's October 22nd and October 29th. The 29th was the town meeting.
Yeah. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
Yeah, I just had a very minor one on the 29th. So it is listed as being a Zoom meeting at the top of the minutes, but it wasn't the auditorium.
Cut and paste, you know?
It'll get you every time.
Ed, did you have something to add to the minutes?
No.
No. Okay. Then maybe we could get a motion to approve those minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion that we approve the October 29th, 2024 minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerwig, aye.
And Kyle, are you there?
I'm here, but I did not hear the amendments that were made to the minutes. I will abstain.
Okay.
Very good.
Myself, aye. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 aye and 1 abstention.
We should also do the October 22nd minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the October 22nd, 2024 minutes?
They looked great.
Okay. Hearing none, a motion perhaps?
I move that we approve the October 22nd minutes.
Second. All right. Roll call votes. Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Maxfield, aye.
Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerwig, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. Minutes are done. So, Amy, you want to jump into budgets and goals priorities next?
Sure. So, as I think most of you know, we're in the middle of budget season already. Or I guess we're just starting budget season. So I had drafted up the budget and the goals and priorities, and I had to submit them, but they know they're in draft since you guys weren't meeting until today. So I'm just here to see if you have any changes to the goals and priority stuff, and I can also run through the budget or either one of them if you would so like.
I thought they looked great. The only thing I noted was just a very small typo under personnel at the very bottom of the budget narrative. It says personal.
Yep.
But I noticed, so it's really no change. It's actually decreasing in the operational budget. And then the salaries are kind of swapping from 25,000 to the assistant agent and then 40K back to the, that extra money is going back to the full-time agents.
Right. So that might, those numbers might increase a little bit for FY26. We're just putting in a placeholder for the grade and step for the new agent and or the new assistant conservation agent. So that will go up a little bit, just so we have room to maneuver, basically.
Perfect. Tim's
But yeah, it's only going up, I think 3,000 right now, and it'll probably be maybe 6,000 increase. But it is covered. It's covered for, like you said, the 40 hours, starting July 1st, 40 hours for the conservation agent, 25 for the assistant. And we have the budget for this fiscal year for the same thing after February 27th when I retire.
Gotcha. I meant to say hours before. I don't know. I was saying 1,000, by the way.
I knew where you're going with that.
Hey, Amy, I do think one thing, and this doesn't really factor into our budget, but I think we need to make sure that the select board and the town administrator's office is aware of that once you retire and we fill the senior role, it may be that we need to ask applicants to do more external peer reviews, and they're going to incur additional costs associated with that. That's not an us budget thing, but I don't want them to be surprised when we're asking applicants to maybe get peer reviews potentially on things that we otherwise might have been able to do in-house when we were fully staffed.
Yeah, I can certainly let them know. I'm not sure there's too many times that would happen other than stormwater, which is where you almost unilaterally go with a peer review anyway, and or some of the more difficult delineations.
I guess it was the difficult delineations that I
Yeah,
really had in
yeah.
mind that, you know, we may just ask for more in there.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Um,
And I'm in some discussions with the town administrator's office about whether or not I would be available on some sort of, 2, 4, or 5 hours, whatever, a week if needed. So of course, right now there's no budget for that. So they got to figure it out. And I'm willing to answer questions anytime anyway, until I get really sick of you. But at least on March 1st, I'll still be around.
Yeah, I mean, one of my concerns with this budget is we don't know how successful we will be at hiring the assistant agent position at the posted rate, right? Like,
Exactly.
there's a possibility that goes sideways, and if that goes sideways in the current budget, that's going to have implications for the upcoming budget. So, I don't see any reason to change that right now, but I can see how that could potentially be a problem.
Yeah, and I think to a degree that is why they upped the assumption for the FY26 salary pool.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of latitude in there.
Sure.
But I do know I was looking through the MACC jobs board today, and there's a lot of listings. Not all of them are for agents, but they're actually almost the majority of them are asking for 1 to 3 years experience, and that's all. Some went up to 4 or 5 years for the agent piece of it, and so they've been posted there. Some of them have been on there for a long time.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned to you guys that Acton hired someone with no experience. So it's right now anyway tough going out there.
Sure. Yeah, that's it's not a job market I'm excited to wade into, but
Yeah, but
fortunately
also
we're going to need to.
Yeah, it's why I'm trying to get this moving, because even in the best of cases, it seems to take a couple months anyway to get someone on board. So, and sort of speaking of which, the new office coordinator for Board of Health and Wetlands and Facilities is starting on, I think it's the 18th,
Okay.
or maybe it's the week of Thanksgiving. But I think most of her hours are going to be in the Board of Health.
Okay. What's her name? His name? What's
Megan.
Megan?
Her name, Megan, I forget her last name from, I forget where.
No worries.
But she seemed great, and most importantly, both Francis and Tim liked her, since they're the ones that are going to have to deal with her the most. So she'll be able to help us a lot with all the admin stuff, and maybe some of the financial pieces of invoices and posting public notices and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think even just taking some of the administrative burden off will be helpful, even if it's not a huge change.
Yeah.
I just and I didn't realize this earlier, but as I pulled it up, it's sort of small potatoes compared to the salaries, but it looks like for the 2025, you zeroed out some just miscellaneous stuff, or decrease some miscellaneous stuff, postage, supplies, stuff like that. Is that just because you rolled it into that single office supplies task, or what?
Yeah. Where's my share screen? Let me see if I can pull this up. It might be a different one. No, I can't.
And when we talked about it, you had said that some of the things you took out of wetlands, I believe it was, that you were putting in, and you moved it elsewhere, or vice versa.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting my screen up. Yeah, so besides the main budget you see, which is the budget that has to go to town meeting. We also have the wetlands revolving fund.
Gotcha.
So there's always a balance there. And we have the garden fund, which is a whole separate thing. And we have the $20,000 that was what I will probably continue to call the Oak Hill Stabilization Fund, which is sitting in there. So the main reason this current year FY25 budget was, maybe a little bit higher was because I had to bump it up because I wasn't sure if I was going to get some grants, and I got the grants. So that's money I'm probably not going to end up spending.
Okay.
By July 1. The main of that was at 15,000 or whatever it is boardwalks, signs, kiosks, invasive species, all that sort of stuff.
Doesn't buy a lot of invasive species management for $15,000, does it?
Well, it's small stuff. The big one is over at Cloverdale, and that CPC is paying for that. And then there's 4 or 5 smaller ones, which are running maybe $1,000. So we've got room. Some of the boardwalks that haven't been built yet, the lumber's already been bought. So that's moving ahead. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the main expense in that category going forward would be if we did anything at Webster, which could take 2 or 3 boardwalks if people are so inclined, a swing sign, a kiosk, it needs all that.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean with Webster too, I imagine we'll want to talk to the highway to see if they can help sort of arrange a bit of a parking space, things like that there too, even just sort of widening the berm. But that's a little tricky because there's not like an easy access there. So there's a lot of different pieces that need to come together before that all starts to make sense.
Yeah, and that's there's room for maybe 3 or 4 cars there. It's not great. It's also a small area, so I don't think there'll be a ton of people there necessarily. It'll be a reasonably quick walk for people. I did talk to the folks at 300 Foster, which is on the other side, about parking there, and they were amenable, and that just fell by the wayside when town meeting blew up the first time. And I think Mark Rombacher has also been talking either to them or to someone else about the possibility for parking. But if we did that parking, I think we'd need another boardwalk.
Right, yeah, because then you have to come over that stream and all that.
It'd be the big pond at the bottom of the big hill, 300 Foster, if that means anything to you guys.
Okay. Before we move on, anyone else have any comments on the budget and goals or priorities? Sounds like Amy, you need to sort of submit those formally unless we want to make changes.
Yeah, if you just want to vote to support, what was in there with the modifications to the salary as discussed, and the language, I think that'll get us going if that works for you. I might keep a draft for a while.
Sure.
Because I just had the meeting today with them, so they're off to other fun stuff.
Okay. Anyone else have any changes, additions, corrections, deletions you want to see in those?
I'm good. We talked over a few things when we met last week, so no major changes.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually what just popped in my head is I want to make sure that if we're getting a new assistant conservation agent, that there's plenty of training money in there. I think there is, but I'm going to double check that.
Okay. So Amy, you're looking for a motion to support the budget and the priorities?
Yes, please. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing on the priorities. I just put in the tree policy. I can't remember what I called it in there. Is that seem appropriate, I assume?
Yep.
Remember, Amy, did you put in that, the one we talked about, that had been getting put off, and the one that people would put their swing set in it and all that?
Oh, Mary Shepherd, I have not had a chance to get out there and see what's going on. I don't think we would really spend any money to put in a trail, if you all remember Mary Shepherd.
Yeah, that could be.
But yeah, Tim and I need to go out there to Mary Shepherd when we're both in the office at the same time and just, first of all, see if they've moved anything by any chance, and then get started again with having them move stuff, let alone try to do a loop trail.
Yeah, that was one I felt pretty strongly we needed to finish.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion, Chase?
Yes, we do.
I move that we approve the budget and goals / priorities as submitted by Amy.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Ed,
Head full side.
Kyle,
Maxfield, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase,
Chase Gervais guy.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Amy. There's a lot of work in that. I appreciate the clarity of it. We're at 7:46 and we could open up the RDA for 3 Sarah Indian Way. Are we expecting anyone to attend for that discussion?
I would expect them to attend, but maybe he is having trouble attending.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's go through some more of the administrative items and give that a little bit of time. See if someone's maybe running a few minutes late. So maybe Amy, you want to take us through the NAGOG lot 107?
Yeah, so I didn't know if any final. You guys were all there. I think Carl was the only one who missed it. So I believe the intention is to go back to the select board in January to move this forward and have more discussions about both having it declared surplus and then moving ahead or not to the transfer of it.
I thought I saw it on the agenda for a recent selectman.
I was just going to ask that if anybody attended the recent one. I heard that it was going to be discussed.
Wasn't able to go, but I did see it on the agenda.
I didn't really see anything. I didn't watch it, but I went back later to the tape, and it had as much to do with the orchard in general as the 107, and just saying that it will be addressed. I think Gary in particular stated that he felt really bad and he thought it was very unfortunate the way it all happened at the last minute. They were kind of apologizing a fair bit left and right, both at their meeting and aside later. So I know in January they're going to be still in the midst of budget stuff. So hopefully we can get in there, and I'd like to set a date as soon as we can so we can get on their agenda. And I forget what their dates are. Yeah.
I had a conversation with the select board chair, and he asked for a little bit of time to deal with post town meeting stuff and the sort of intro to budgeting season, and thought January would be a reasonable time to pick up that particular discussion. But I'll kick that to you all to make sure that's okay with you. I said it made sense to me, but I wanted sort of an agreement from this board that we were going to wait to January to initiate that discussion.
January is fine as long as we don't end up back in, out in May in the same position we were in this time, and they had the paperwork since September. So, if we can start it in January and finish it by no later than the end of February so that we're prepared for town meeting, I think that's not an unreasonable ask. Or to put it in a positive, I think that's a reasonable ask.
I'm all for meeting with them, but I based on the discussion that we had before town meeting, it didn't sound like they wanted to hear from us. They wanted to hear from the town, right? They were more concerned that the town was being skirted and didn't have the chance to provide input on what they might want to see. And that's more what I'm worried about, is that it's easy enough for us to say, hey, get us on your agenda. But if they're actively looking for town input, if the town holds on to the property instead of passing it on to us, they need to do that, starting in January, not necessarily meeting with us. So I'm not worried about our end of it. Like, I agree with you, Ed. We don't want to wait, and I could see this happening again, but their concerns aren't what we're talking about right now. I don't think us meeting with them doesn't cover what they told us their concerns are.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to your point, Kyle, a few things that we could help sort of clarify for them, right? Like I thought what we had envisioned for the property was fairly self-evident. I'm not sure that they agreed. So cool, great. We can provide that clarity, but that's just sort of the beginning of the discussion. Okay, now we have the vision from Conscom about this. Now, community, what are the other options? So,
Yeah. That has to happen quick, right? Because if we're not having that initial conversation until January, then I can see them not talking to the public until February, and now it's town meeting again. So.
Yeah, but and I'm not sure. I would kind of the assumption that they would assume that if we have a joint meeting, that would be the public outreach.
That would be.
I don't know if they're going to do something entirely separate, which is, I mean, who knows?
And what defines public outreach? I mean, are they looking for a certain number of people? There's too much gray here for me. It just feels like unless we can nail down the parameters, how are they and us going to know that it's acceptable to move forward? You know?
I think that's a really important discussion in January, whenever we meet with them, and right, like what's the framework? What's the process? Is it
right
one meeting? Is it a second meeting to follow up the initial one, and then they make a decision? It's fortunately as much as we can put the article on the warrant, it appears that unless the select board chooses to declare it surplus, which I'm still not sure of that process, but anyway, we'll set that aside for now. That article would be relevant. So at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what process do they want?
So their meetings tentatively right now are January 13th and the 27th. So I assume we would, go to them.
Yeah. Amy, would you mind to follow up with Jim and request that we get on the January 13th agenda?
Yeah, I think you're right. Just that'll be kind of a preliminary meeting, and I think because I'm not sure the public would be aware necessarily that we're on that. I mean, obviously we can.
Oh, we could make sure they're aware.
We can broadcast. I just don't know if the first meeting is the right forum for that. Like Chase said, like we need to meet and pick each other's brains here on okay, what are we stalling for? What are we waiting for? And then say, okay, now we can have this discussion in front of the public. I don't think it makes sense for the public to have us sitting there trying to figure out each other's minds and twiddling their thumbs and then spend 3 hours talking about it after that.
Right. Yeah. We've got to put a vision forward in more detail than I think we did in the past.
Yeah, and they do too, right? If that's their concern. So I think it goes both ways.
Okay. Very good. So we'll work with them to get on the January 13th then. We have a couple of attendees. Amy, one of the attendees is just a phone number and one is just labeled as iPhone. Do you know if those are our 3 Sarah Indian Way folks?
I do not know. I know. Can the person who's labeled as iPhone identify themselves? I can allow you to talk. And you're muted right now.
You're still muted.
All right, so I don't know who the iPhone person was. Let's try this 995. That might be John.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
There you go. Yes.
So are you here to speak to 3 Sarah Indian Way, sir?
Sarah Indian Way, yes.
Okay. Very good.
I'm here for 15 Powers.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. We'll get to you in just a minute. So we're gonna open up the 745 RDA for 3 Sarah Indian Way. Amy, can you give us a little bit of lead into this, and then I'd like the property owner to describe any updates or where we're at.
Yeah, so this was for rebuilding a porch cabana, whatever you want to call it. And the pictures had gotten left out of the font and we didn't scan the whole thing. which shows, the rotten stuff that was taking place there. And the other part of the RDA was also just getting the docks permitted. And I think Ed was the only one who was able to make a site walk. So I don't know if he had any updates for y'all.
It's a very steep ground. What he's got built so far is solid as a rock. He's got the wattles out and taking care of, protecting the water. For as far as I can see, everything is the way it should be.
Ed and Amy, do you have an opinion that you'd like to recommend on whether or not we should, which way we should go on the RDA here?
I mean, Ed, I don't know if you have any. I personally think that a determination of applicability to let him do the replacement and get the docks lined up is appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Amy, you're saying docks, but I thought I only saw one dock.
It's one, but it's got a configuration. So yeah, there's just he may have pulled out one already. I'm not sure. I forget, Jay, if your docks are still in or.
No, the docks are exactly the way they've been,
Okay.
last 15 years.
Yep.
So Amy, if I heard you right, you're recommending that we do find applicability here and then request a filing?
No, that'd be a -3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I heard it's the other way around.
Yeah.
To get
Okay.
the dock filed, right? But to get the permit for the dock. Yeah.
Okay. So you're recommending a negative determination. Okay. And I do agree.
Yes.
Anything else we need to discuss here? Anyone else have any other questions for either the applicant or for Amy or Ed who went out to go see it?
So with the replacement of this, is it totally being removed in full, or is it just like the platform?
He kept the same footprint, and what he did was he even left some of the old 6x6s, but he shored it all up with new footings and new 6x6s on the corner, new floor. That he stopped at the floor. The building inspector told him, stop until we approve the complete continuation, and so.
Yeah, he had started the demo and the rebuilding when I called him and said you needed to file for that. So he stopped at that point.
Gotcha. Perfect.
It's going to end up being a 3-season. I don't even know what you call it. I was going to say porch. It's not a porch. It's not a shed, but maybe cabana is the right word.
Yeah, if there was a house, I'd call it a porch, but there's no house.
Yeah, no, exactly. I wanted to say porch.
And the way it's structured, it looked like there isn't really the potential for like a stone patio, essentially to change the landscaping outside of it.
No, it's very steep, and I mean, I was standing on the downside of it, and it came up to my waist or my chest or something. It's ground is pretty steep, so I don't envision anything going beyond that. He's already got a path down to the water, and but he is going to make it 3-season with screens, and he's going to put some kind of heater in it. So,
and I guess, Mr. Dolan, what I think we would like to make sure you're aware of is that if we do reach a negative determination here, the expectation is that you'll still maintain the sediment and erosion controls. But to the extent that, let's say, you wanted to do other grading work at a future date, that would require potentially a permit or at least a discussion with the Conservation Commission and stuff before you go forward.
Absolutely. As I told Ed when he was there, and I showed him around the property, there's nobody that is going to care more about the property than me as being the landowner, and having the rights up to the pond, which are very special. So I take care of the property. Actually, I think he saw that with my house that's up a little bit further while I take care of things.
And I would emphasize too there that even removal of trees, even if you're leaving the root mass in place, would be something we would want to talk about before you went forward.
No, there's no removal of any trees at all. I mean, Amy's been out there because a lot of my neighbors have had problems with trees that are rotting. And unfortunately, some of the trees are rotting. And she's given approval all the trees that have been removed. None of them actually on my property, except one of them was on my property and caused damage to my neighbor's cabana, which it ended up rotting and falling on his cabana. And he had to go through the same thing that I'm going through now to get permission to rebuild his. That was because a large pine tree on my property fell on his cabana.
There. Okay.
So that's what we're trying
Yeah,
to avoid, those type of things.
The hemlocks in particular out there are getting in sad shape. As I think Michael was the last one out there looking at some of the trees with me, but the neighbors all know.
Looks like we're leaning towards a negative determination. Someone want to make a motion for us?
I'll make a motion that the commission issue a -3 determination for 3 Sarah Indian Way, rebuild of an existing structure.
And dogs.
Oh, with dock and associated waiver. And the waiver, is that for safety?
It's what are you? Well, for the cabana, it would be safety. For the docks, it's water dependent. Docks get their water dependent waiver.
Motion's been made and someone seconded
Second.
it. Made and seconded. Andrew, you want to give us a roll call?
Roll call vote. Kyle,
Maxwell, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase,
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Ed,
Ed Fultz, aye.
and myself, I. It's unanimous.
Very good. Good luck, Mr. Dolan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, it's 8:02. We're gonna go move into the enforcement order for 15 Powers Road. Sounded like we have Mr. McGogan here. Would you like to give us an update on where you're at? My understanding is I know you had Matt Morrow on board from a wetlands perspective, but I think we're still looking for some surveying help or something like that. Is that where we're at?
Yep. I reached out to Civil. I spoke with Kirk. He's not able to do the work. He reached out to a friend who strictly does surveying. He's not available to do the work. Matt Morrow reached out to one of his friends, I believe 2 of his friends, or 2 coworkers that do survey work. He said neither of them have the time in their schedule to do it. So we're not at an impasse, but we're still looking.
Is the constraint here just the timing in which we're asking you to have it done, or are there other constraints that are resulting in several surveyors not being able to do it?
A mix. Time being one, busyness being another, and maybe it's possibly location or preference. 2 of the surveyors I personally didn't speak to. I was just told through Kirk and through Matt that they're not interested, they're not available, they're too busy.
That would be it.
Okay.
But John, did you say you thought you might have somebody else on the line or lined up?
No. I said we're still working on it.
Working on it, and
But, I mean,
what's your next
I know
step?
Matt's not on this call right now. Continue looking for a surveyor that would willing to do it, or continue looking for someone that has the time or the means to do it.
Okay. Amy, can you remind
I
us?
know Matt's not on the call, but Matt will be able to vouch for everything I just said. With not in an impasse, I just didn't think it would be necessary to have him on board for this meeting.
Understood.
We're still looking for a surveyor.
Generally agree with that. No sense for you to pay his fees to tell us what you can tell us.
Exactly.
Amy, can you remind us? We had a couple sort of outstanding things. Surveying was part of it, but what were the other sort of elements here that we had discussed?
Well, Matt had reflagged the wetlands, so those flags are up. So that's waiting for survey along with the survey to do the topo.
Okay.
John, I believe you had the erosion controls up that were asked for.
Yes, there are wattles up.
Okay. Have we taken a look at those, Amy? Have you or Tim?
I have not. I was kind of hoping for a restoration plan and
Sure.
only go out once, but I can certainly stop by real quick and just take a look.
John, I'm going to propose something. We'll see if the
Yeah,
commission is comfortable with this, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it first. If we said, we'll continue this for 2 weeks, I think we meet again on the 26th, and we'd really like to have a surveyor lined up. Like, I don't think it's productive to start issuing tickets or something like that. I think it sounds like you're trying to find someone. I'd like to ask you to just continue to find someone to do that. And to the extent that you find someone to do it, but maybe the timing doesn't work, I think we would be willing to talk to you about that, or at least that would be my recommendation to the commission. How would you feel about going down that path?
I think that's exactly the path I'm on. I've been looking, and I will continue looking for someone who's able to do it. I was just hoping that I could get 2 more weeks and that something would change in the next 2 weeks.
Commissioners, any
I know
thoughts
for
on?
the next meeting, Matt Morrow is unavailable. I don't necessarily know if he would need to attend, but he will be out of the country.
Yeah, John, I think in an ideal scenario, between now and the next meeting, you will have been able to get the property surveyed and we could have a restoration plan. I think that's probably unlikely, especially with Thanksgiving in the way. So it's probably okay if Matt is not able to attend. Sounds like it doesn't really matter if it's okay. He's not going to be here. But but what we would be looking for is 2 weeks from now, we've got the surveyor lined up or the survey already done. And 2 weeks after that, we're looking at a restoration plan. Commissioners,
I'd be happy with that.
What do you all?
I do have one question that might
Okay.
bounce off all the commissioners. Assuming that what we just discussed is fulfilled and everything works out, I get the property surveyed, we have a restoration plan on the 26th. I believe we have court a day or 2 days after that regarding the tickets that were issued. With the good faith and me working with you guys, getting a wetland scientist, getting a survey, getting a remediation plan, is that something that would make you guys want to dismiss the tickets? Or are you going to continue looking are you going to fight me on the tickets?
It is my understanding that it is not our choice whether or not to dismiss your tickets. But what I will say here, John, is that what I would like to ask the commission to do is to be prepared on the 26th to go into an executive session. We are allowed to go into an executive session around certain things like this. And I'd like to be able to discuss this legal matter with the commission before we comment on that. But I think I understand your ask, right? What you're asking is, your argument is, I'm working in good faith. Would we support the dismissal of those tickets if the court were to choose to do so?
Right. Dan, I'd like to also add that every meeting I've attended since the tickets were issued, more tickets have been, maybe threatened isn't the right word, because this meeting you specifically said that would not be productive, and I agree. But each of the past, I think it's been 4 meetings that I've been on since the tickets were issued, I've been threatened with more tickets. Is my cooperation with you guys in working to restore this going to influence the outcome of what you guys are pursuing with the tickets? And if you guys aren't pursuing the tickets, who is pursuing the tickets? Not the Conservation Commission, it's just the town of Littleton?
The tickets that have been issued, we don't think of it this way. The analogy is not perfect, but it's essentially if a police officer issues you a speeding ticket, once it's in the court's hands, the police officer doesn't actually have the choice whether or not to withdraw the ticket. The court has to withdraw the ticket or take some action. And that's where we're at. The Conservation Commission issued those tickets, but at this point, it's now with the court. Now, what I'm saying is I think the commission could certainly discuss this in an executive session a couple weeks from now and determine what our position might be with respect to your hearing on the 27th. I don't want to comment on which way that would go right now, though, John. I do hear your ask, though, right? What you're asking is, would we support the withdrawal of those tickets?
Right. And I think the only disagreement or discrepancy I'd have with the comment you just made is I've gotten a few tickets from police officers. Some tickets you go in, you appeal, the police officer shows up and appeals it with you. Some tickets you appeal, you go up, nobody shows up, and they just throw it out. Some tickets were actual tickets. Other tickets were BS tickets, hence no cop showing up and the magistrate going, what is this even for?
Correct. But this is my point, John, that it's the court making that action. So we hear your request. We'll take it up in an executive session on the 26th, and we'll be able to fill you in on which way or what our thoughts might be on that matter as of the 26th. The fact of the matter is, since you've been engaging in this process, no additional tickets have been issued. And I think you should take that to indicate that we feel like we're on at least a productive enough path to not issue tickets. I would like to come back to this idea, though. I want to get the commission's input on the plan that we just laid out, potentially for 2 weeks from now, having a surveyor lined up and a restoration plan 2 weeks from there. Comments from the commission on that?
Sounds good.
I can get behind that as long as the expectation is that he'll have someone in 2 weeks at a minimum, and not come back in 2 weeks and, you know, 4 more people can't or won't do it and what have you. Because, I mean, that's very possible.
Do you have
It could take a whole bunch more people before you find someone, but.
Do you have any recommendations?
So we can't actually recommend anybody as a municipal agency, unfortunately.
That's correct.
Matt Marrow is certainly going to know a lot of names.
Matt Marrow has certainly pointed me in the direction of a few people that haven't worked out, but I'm willing to continue going that route.
Yeah, that's my only observation about it. I'm fine with the plan, you know, in 2 weeks, as long as in 2 weeks we have someone engaged. And my ideal would be that the survey is done, but at a minimum that they're engaged.
So my thought with this now is I can completely appreciate and understand schedule, right? In engineering field, we're very busy as well. Things are not happening quickly. There's a backlog. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't, just because a few of these folks that he's reached out to are like, I can't get to that next week. That's very reasonable in my opinion. So when can you get to it?
I've left an open date. 3 surveyors, Kirk included at Civil, they're just booked out a month out.
Right, and that's fine.
He has so much real work that he's not interested in coming out to just resurvey.
Yep. No, and that's where I was going. That's exactly why I appreciate that situation that you're in with those folks saying that they have bigger jobs that are occupying the time.
Right.
But if you can't find somebody that's, if you're trying again next week and still no luck with 4 other surveyors, we go to these ones that are saying, you're not at the top of my list. I can get to you, but it's not going to be until December 7th.
And that was
comfortable. At least then we finally have something on the books. And as far as I do agree that we're moving forward and you're having those conversations, but coming back in 2 weeks and saying, it's your fault, but saying that I've reached out to 4 more people and I can't.
No, I'd be happy to come back in 2 weeks with either a survey or somebody retained, and an estimated date of when it would be surveyed.
Right. Okay. That's exactly where I was going. So thank you. That's
And that's
Exactly.
all
If you're
I was
coming back
asking
and
as
just saying,
well.
I tried, sorry, don't know what to do anymore, then that's not going to be good enough. But if you are trying over the next week and, hey, the only thing I can do for you guys is get a survey out here December 12th, that's the best I can do. Again, at least that's the good faith effort. You went through it, and now we have the path forward, and we can go from there
Okay.
again.
So what you're saying is, Kyle, 2 weeks from now, if the survey is not done, we do at least want to have a date certain for when it will be done, even if it's a little farther out and maybe we need to reconsider the
Correct.
date to the restoration plan. Okay,
Yes.
we can live with that.
That's all I was asking was, why I said someone engaged, not necessarily completed, but at least they're engaged. And we don't.
Yes, so would the commission want basically a letter of engagement with whatever?
Yep.
surveyor?
Letter of engagement with a date certain.
Yeah.
Or survey.
Or obviously, if
But-
you can get the survey done in the 2
Right.
weeks, then we'll take that.
Yeah.
Gold,
That's
gold
good
stars
plan.
all around then.
Yeah, really.
Optimistic, right?
I think we've got a plan then, John.
Awesome.
All
All right, thank you guys. This
Yeah.
was awesome.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, talk to you in a couple weeks.
Okay, we're running a couple minutes behind, but we're going to open up the 8:05 continued discussion on enforcement order at 0 Ipswich. I see Mr. Gallagher's on. Let's see if we can. Let Mr.
Should be two of them.
talk.
Yeah, they come. I know senior, junior wants to take the floor.
Sorry. Good evening.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
How was everything?
So far, so good. You want to give us an update on where we're at here?
I'll make this as quick as I can for you because I know it's a long night. We provided the commission on Friday with a restoration plan done by Place Associates. It envisions the placement within the jurisdictional area and just to the outside of the jurisdictional area of 17 native bushes and trees, and the entire area that was designated by the commission, the triangle, so to speak, would then be seeded with a northeast blend, wetland mix blend, and restored as requested. We'd like the commission to approve the plan, and then we can check with the nurseries. I know Amy asked me if I could check with the nurseries. I think a lot of the plants may still be available, but I don't know about the trees. There's not, a ton of large trees, so it may be easy to find some of these trees. But we would embark upon doing so tomorrow if the commission would like.
Amy, do you have any comments on the plan before we open it up to commissioners?
No, it's pretty much the plan that was proposed for the 50-foot restoration area, just moved over. It's got a good mix of trees and shrubs and relatively dense, so I think it's a pretty acceptable plan.
My question on it was less the density and more the are we just going to risk a die-off if we do it now? What's your professional opinion on the right timing for this type of restoration?
Mark, when you talk to the nurseries, I would certainly ask them about that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I will.
talked briefly with Joe Cataldo because I ran across him about it, and he said, generally, it's an okay time of year. Some species may be more or less stressed, especially because it's so dry right now. And it also means that whatever you go at the nursery to pick up, you can't really tell how healthy it is because all the leaves are off.
Right.
Okay.
Our only concern was not the survivability, but the value of the tree or shrub today, not being able to see how healthy it is. But if the commission would like us to roll forward, we will do so. If you'd like to agree to approve the plan and then put a date specific on it for the spring, we're happy to do it then either. Whatever you would like to do.
That's all. What's your pleasure?
And I would also assume either way that the commission is going to require a 2-year monitoring period
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Either way.
but perhaps a little more risk if you do it now.
The only issue with trying to do it right now is one of our main suppliers is Bigelow Nurseries out of Northborough, Mass. They have a ton of indigenous trees and shrubs. They actually grow a lot of their own trees and shrubs at the actual nursery. This time of year for the trees, they start wintering them over. So we would have to, if we were to get them right now, I would have to have them go dig them out of what they essentially, bury them for the winter in order to pull them out. The shrubs are a little bit less of an issue. They have less of a selection because we did buy some trees and shrubs, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, and they were more limited. You guys go forward trying to do it this year. You might have flexible with what they, if that's okay, as opposed to what exactly on the list.
Okay. Commissioners, thoughts on getting it done this year with maybe a little more flexibility to it, or doing it in the spring? I think that sounds like where we're at, or frankly, or other
Why am I
broader
freezing?
comments.
This is not the best time, like it was mentioned, the nurseries are wintering over their stock. You can't tell if it's a healthy tree or not. It doesn't make sense to me to force it. The spring, they'll be healthier, the survivability, I would assume, would be much better, and hopefully we have water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and follow up, I'm saying, I don't think there's a reason at the site to have to rush through this. The site's stable. It's not like there's a major concern here. If you were that concerned, we could have them stabilize. I guess that one area that we're kind of talking about, putting down some sort of a mixer, Tackify or something to last the winter. But I agree that putting these plantings in doesn't sound like. I don't know if the benefit outweighs the risk.
Okay.
I tend to come down on that side too. Now, logistically, Amy, if we were to determine that it made more sense to do this restoration plan in the spring, would we leave the enforcement order open until that time?
I would recommend that, add a letter to the enforcement file saying that if it's the case that you approve the plan and would like to hear back by some sort of date about what the installation is going to be, and or that the installation happens by a certain date, whichever way you want to do it.
My only concern with this is that by putting it off, we risk losing track of it. And so this, I think, is just let's make sure, particularly because you are not going to be here to close this one out with us, Amy. Let's make sure it's on Tim's calendar as a clear expectation. Let's not lose track of it.
And I would frankly leave it on the agenda, on the back side of the agenda.
Sure.
Yep.
You want to pick a date when you want to hear from them and or when you would want the installation to be done by? Or maybe the Gallaghers have a suggestion for...
The only issue with, and we have no issue with doing it in the spring, you just have to give, depending on the winter, obviously, and hoping there's snow and then rain, is that we give the nursery an opportunity to open and to be pulling material and it's not frost. So maybe later in April or early May is the deadline would be something.
I would just say May 15th.
Yeah. Just to make sure that the shrubs are healthy and they're out of the ground and ready to go.
Seems reasonable to me. My request there, and this is just a handshake agreement, is if you guys are able to do it earlier than that, right? Like, please let us know.
No issues.
Things like that.
No problems.
So I think we probably should have a motion to approve this restoration plan and deadline of May 15th for installation.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion that we approve the wetland buffer restoration plan provided by Police Associates with the understanding that it will be implemented by May 15th, 2025 or sooner.
Second.
Roll call.
All right, roll call vote. Ed,
Yeah, both sides.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase,
Chase Gerber guy.
and myself, I. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I ask one question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
The gentleman that was on before us has been on before us quite a few times, and he seems to be struggling, and I know as a municipality, you cannot make recommendations. Amy, holiday season, if he needs some help in getting across the finish line, would you like to give him, I'll give you permission, you can give him my cell phone number. He could leave me a message. I'm happy to call him back. I think I could help him find a surveyor and put maybe some of the pain out of the way. Mark and I use a myriad of the top engineering firms here. We spend a lot of money a year, and we would be happy to introduce him in a kind way to try to get this accomplished, because I listened to his story originally about being a single dad and young kids and having grown up in Littleton. If we can help him in any way, shape, or form, and you would like us to do so, Amy, we'd be happy to help him down the path.
I think that would be exceptional.
We're happy to.
Very much appreciate that, Mark.
Yeah.
I think it'll make his life and our lives easier.
Yeah, I've watched him struggle, and I feel terrible for the young man. I really do. I should have said this 2 months ago when I sat through one of these, and tonight wasn't grueling, but I mean, it's difficult for both sides to find a middle ground. And I was like, Jesus, I'll just move a machine down there tomorrow and do it. Trying to get it out of the way. I got silt fence in the trailer. And I said to Marky, I just would like to just, help him in any way to make this go away for everybody.
Appreciate that a great deal.
Yeah, Amy, you're welcome to give him my phone number, and just have him leave a message because there's a screening service on it. And I will make sure that I call him back, and I'd be happy to help him with several surveyors that we could probably put a little pressure on to help him out.
Will do.
Okay. Amy, does that mean you're retiring? This is the first I've heard of this.
That does mean I'm retiring February 27th.
Oh, Amy, you can't do that to Mark and I. You've helped us throughout all these years.
Hey, we feel the same way, Mark.
She can't do it to you guys. What about us?
Yeah.
Well,
Might as well just go out of business.
why can't you just rescue her? What are you going to do at home? There's nothing to do.
I will admit, when I said February 27th, why the heck am I retiring in February?
Right, right. Wait till July.
10 years, man.
I hear you. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Mark.
Take
Mark,
care,
thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, let's come back around to the administrative discussions. Open space and rec plan. Amy, is that you or is that Andrew?
That's me and Nora Andrew, and oh my God, it's been finalized and accepted.
Woo!
Which I frankly thought had happened months ago.
So done.
Done.
It is done. So I had to put it on the agenda in
Excellent.
case you all thought
Fantastic.
it was done. Yeah.
Well done.
I honestly didn't realize it wasn't.
Well, thank you. You and me both. Yeah.
There were a few other pieces that Conservation Services was kind of bouncing back and forth between our consultants, and yeah, luckily it's all squared away now, and we're good to go.
Andrew, thank you very much to you and your group for putting that together.
Oh, no problem.
So that was that.
Admin assistant, Megan?
Yeah,
Is that-
I think I mentioned it that she starts in the week before Thanksgiving, whatever that is. Mostly Board of Health, but we'll get her also. I did want to add one thing before I forget. Parks and Rec is I don't know if you're aware, there's oh boy, in the junior high and the middle school, there's a fence out around back. And it's a serious chain link fence. They want to put it in another one as a backstop to the baseball field that's out there. It would be in the lawn outside the 50-foot, and for it to be effective from having balls roll under it, it obviously would not be raised above the ground. I just wanted to see if you want to see anything of that. I tend to think that it's not an obstacle to wildlife because A, the fence that's out there is already an obstacle, and B, the ends are going to be open, so stuff can go around it. But I just wanted to see if you might want to see a filing or if that's just an administrative approval thing.
And we don't have any priority species out there, right?
No, Tim's been out there. He's been kind of talking to Parks and Rec about this. So
Yeah, the administrator seems fine to me. I'm more worried about seeing what their plan is for the tennis courts and whatnot.
the tennis courts are entirely outside our jurisdiction.
They are okay. Well, that's good to hear because I was getting
Yeah,
nervous that they were going to push limits.
Yeah, Tim was talking to them about that too, and they did the site walk, and they will have to deal with stormwater from the stormwater bylaw piece of things, but not from the wetlands piece of things. So they're outside the 100-foot buffer. They're outside the 200-foot riverfront.
And minimize clearing and everything too, or what?
From the aerial photograph that Tim showed me, I think it's all already cleared ground. I'm not sure how much grading there may or may not be, but it's kind of up against the road. Okay, good. Oak Meadow Montessori School. They wanted to know if anybody wanted to, come to the presentations that their students have for a scalable climate action plan that they're doing, because they like, if they can, to get input from people who deal with this on a more daily basis. So I don't know if anybody, it's 2:30 I think or something. I don't know if anybody was interested or available, or Kyle said maybe.
Yeah, I said I could be the face if nobody else was available. I might be able to make it work.
I mean, Tim or I might be able to go too, but they were asking for the commissioners. I also sent them over to the Sustainability Committee. All right, I'll get back in touch with her and see if someone from the Sustainability Committee will make them happier. I forget what that is, because I think I can still go to that. But all right.
Yeah, let me know. I'll put it on my calendar for now.
Okay.
Great. No.
And the only other thing I had was I sent it around, was the Fort Pond year-end report was submitted. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or if you had any discussion items on it for tonight or another time, but that was just an FYI.
Other than the fact that it's 2 feet down from where it should be.
That's wild. I drove across the Concord River on the way to work, and it's empty. There's no water in the river.
Oh yeah,
It's wild.
it's amazing. Beaver
Brook at Hartwell under the causeway there, whatever you want to call it, is high. There must be some beaver downstream that are backing it up or something, but it was high.
We could use some of that over my way.
Everybody else could, yeah.
But at the Quabbin, there's an island that is almost a peninsula. That's how far down it is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got to change.
No, doesn't gotta. It needs to.
We pray that it changes.
Yeah,
There you go. Okay. Any other updates or administrative items? I have one thing, but curious to see if there's anything else you all have.
I just had a quick shout out. I don't know if you guys had heard, but Jim O'Neill did retire this weekend as trail crew coordinator for the town and the trust after 14 years, and it's been amazing. He's coordinated so many projects over the years, and just want to give him a shout out tonight and let him know how much we appreciate him, and maybe down the road we can do something for him. But yeah, he's been great, and I don't know what we're gonna do.
So who's taking over? Because like on the Williams property, there are 2 bridges, for lack of another term, where the wood is still there, and if it's going to be there all winter, that's not going to be good for the wood.
Jim is planning on getting to those.
Is it?
I think he got it started when we had a bit of a mild winter last year, and then it turned on him, so he wasn't able to finish. And then he wanted to focus on Cloverdale.
Sure. I was just concerned if the wood was going to be there. Maybe it should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The one other thing I had, I think this fits well enough in an administrative item. I checked in with the water or the electric department because I wanted to understand the electrical infrastructure that they need in the vicinity of the proposed project related to Amazon's EV charging stations, and had a discussion with them to understand what they planned on doing there. And essentially what I learned was that they do need to bring in power, as was discussed in that application. And we can't really get into that particular application. But what I did want to say is, to the extent that you all have questions about that or something, we can certainly talk about setting up a time for you to chat with the water department. But I'm now comfortable with the idea that the argument that I keep saying the water department, the electric department needs that point of connection is something I'm comfortable with now. So, I think that wraps up our agenda. Amy, anything else on your list?
I do not think so.
Okay. And I think it's time for a favorite motion here.
I move that we close the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Ed.
At full time.
Kyle.
No, Maxwell, I.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Kirby guy.
Oh, Amy, did you have a last minute?
Did we not get the last one? Just, I assume we want the executive session on the 26th
Yes, please.
with town council. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll set that up.
And
Okay.
Chase
Sorry.
Chase was an aye, and I'm an aye. It is unanimous. We are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you and good night.